This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for Lessons Learned, a program that I chose to do a couple of months ago because I realized that all of us are facing obstacles every day. In this last year with the pandemic, um, many of us faced even more obstacles than usual. But obstacles don't mean that, we're stuck. All it means is that we have to just find a different path or a different way of doing things. And thanks to a very good friend of mine, David Zimmerman, he has referred me to Tobias Forest. And Tobias, I have to tell you, I recognized your face immediately when he told me, but I don't I don't connect names all the time. I'm really bad with names, but I can connect faces. And I was like, I know that guy. Yeah, I've seen him before. So,
Well, I'm
well,
glad it's from something and not just, I know him because he posts a lot of stuff on Facebook.
oh, no, it actually wasn't even Facebook. In fact, today's the first time that I actually clicked on your page to become a friend because you have just done so much in your career. And like, what even made you decide to get into entertainment? Because it's one of the toughest careers around.
It was not the plan, not at all. Um, Ironically enough, I did audition for a movie when I was 9, and they wanted me to come to the callbacks. I did a little ET impersonation. I pulled my shirt over my knees and I pretended I was ET. And they wanted me to come back for the callback, but I had no interest. I wanted to play, and I didn't. I already went and had my fun, and that was it. And then years later, I had a brush with it in a college class where I had an acting class, but I skipped the whole semester and, you know, didn't really focus on it. Lo and behold, I became a jeweler and a musician. So I was on stage performing as a singer, and I really loved that aspect of my life, but didn't have plans to become a performer. And then I had a spinal cord injury after diving off of a waterfall in the Grand Canyon shortly after my college graduation, a few months after that. So I said, wow, my life has totally changed. I can't do music, I can't perform. What will I do? I went back to school and was getting a master's in psychology and had to portray someone with Alzheimer's. So I wrote a whole monologue about a guy with Alzheimer's, and I did it for my class. And my class was like, "How come you're not an actor?" And I said, "What?" I didn't even think about it. But a really good friend of mine and my mentor was named Danny Murphy, and he was a fantastic actor, quadriplegic. He's in all the Farrelly brothers movies. He was best friends with Peter and Bobby Farrelly, and they really broke the mold by putting him in a lot of parts, able-bodied parts, disabled parts, all of it. And I had no interest, but I asked him. I said, "Everyone tells me to be an actor. What do I do?" He says, "Go take an improv course." So I did, and I instantly joined an improv team with my teacher, and people were carrying me up 2 flights of stairs twice a week just so I could be part of the
Right?
performance. And I felt that that was so sort of powerful and magical, and I hadn't really had that in my life, I don't think. And then I graduated, had an opportunity to move to Los Angeles and do research at UCLA. And in the process of doing that, had heard about a competition for actors with disabilities to receive a Christopher Reeve acting scholarship. And I said, I don't have any experience. I got the old man with Alzheimer's. I'll do that. So I did it, and I ended up winning. And it was, I don't know, like 5 or 10 grand at the time. And I used that money and put it right into classes and learning how to act, and then doing a play, and then doing an extra job in a TV show, and then slowly but surely things started to happen.
You know, it's interesting because many of us um, might have an injury of any sort and automatically feel like not what is it I'm going to do, but oh, I can't do anything anymore.
Sure.
And that's a fair way to feel initially, because your life totally changed. You know, one minute you were up there soaring, and then the next minute you were broken. But
Yeah.
how did you get from being broken to say, "Whoa, where can I go from here?"
I am highly competitive against myself in some ways. And when I had a spinal cord injury, I looked at it like a sport or like anything. It was something that I was going to have to master. I was going to have to, I didn't have to accept it, but I had to at least understand it at the time. And, you know, when you're first spinal cord injury or you have an injury or something like that, a lot of times they'll say, well, you know, the science is right around the corner. We're, you know, hopefully in your lifetime in the next 10 years, but, and you'd hear in the next 5, 10 years, next five. And so at some point you go, well, how much can I focus on my rehabilitation and then go, how do I really live my passion? Right.
Right.
My passion is not going to a gym every day and doing that. My passion is being on a stage and performing. And so how did I sort of get past it? I don't know. For me, there was a bit of um, not much is going to stand in my way because, you know, if it's an obstacle, I'll try to go around it. If I can't, then whatever, I'll find another way to do what I want. And I had a little bit of, and I don't care what people think of me thing going on,
Okay.
which might have been overcompensation at the time. But yeah, it was that I had already been through a lot of stuff in my life. So I already had a lot of emotional scar tissue. So I was very prepared for the emotional side of it and the physical side of it. Fortunately, my body was in good health before I was hurt and wanted to fight. And I was very fortunate to be around other people. And, you know, no one ever looked at me and said, oh, you can't do that, you know?
Well,
So I think that was helpful. I had a wonderful family and friends that have always supported me along the way.
it's really important that we stop looking at each other and making that judgment call what somebody can and cannot do. Um, Last week, I had the pleasure of interviewing Alan Rucker, who
Love Alan
um,
Rucker. I love him.
he is amazing, and the way he explains his story, he went to sleep, he woke up, and he was paralyzed, and from that point forward, he was in a wheelchair, and um, he found a way, like you did, to say, well, hey, my brain still works, my hands still work, my I have that thought process. The only thing that's not working right now are my legs. And he said the biggest thing that he had to overcome was when people would see him, they would see the chair before they would see him.
Yeah.
And we have to stop looking at people that way.
I,
Um,
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit mixed on it because, for instance, some people will get offended if someone goes, well, what happened to you? Why are you in a chair? How did you get hurt? Whatever. But if I see someone with a Band-Aid on, I'm like, "Whoa, what happened?" You know? So
yeah,
it's a natural sort of response, not necessarily it doesn't always have to be felt as invasive. And I sort of I completely understand that, right? Because
right.
people will look at me and I just kind of don't notice sometimes, right? A lot of times I just have turned it off. But I also love the challenge. I found myself going back to doing music years after my injury. and I didn't think I would ever sing again. I didn't ever think I'd be fronting a band again. But I ended up singing in a rock and roll band and performing on stages all over the Sunset Strip. And before every show, people would come up and say, "Oh, so do you promote for the band? Are you promoter? Or are you?" They had no idea that I'm gonna get on the stage and
It,
sing. And then when I would be lifted onto the stage by my bandmates, I could see the audience prepare themselves for what they would think was probably sad or emotional music, or that, they've kind of lowered their expectations, which was great for
right.
me because then I would turn it on and in 1 minute you forget about the wheelchair, right? Because
Oh, absolutely.
the music takes over. And a lot of times people with disabilities, we almost are put in a position where we have to instantly turn people around, right? We have to either through humor or our personality or whatever it may be, we have to sort of flip the switch and go, "Well, I know you have some assumptions, and without saying that, let's throw those assumptions aside because we're just two people talking, right?"
Oh, and I didn't understand disability most of my younger life. And even as a young adult, I didn't. I didn't come in, I didn't encounter too many people who had disabilities, whether that was, I don't think it was by choice, it just happened, so to speak. But when my son was 6 years old, he was diagnosed on the autism spectrum.
Hmm.
Now, he was no different that day than he was the next day when we started telling people that he was on the spectrum. And people looked at him differently, and people were afraid of him. And they were afraid of my husband and myself because it was like it was something contagious.
Right.
And I had to start to understand what it was going to be like for him as well as for ourselves. And it was like, we haven't changed. We're the same people. Um, and we found over the years, my son had more abilities than I think we ever would have noticed if he hadn't been diagnosed. And when I started this series, that's what I wanted people to see. That is the lesson. And you're proof of it, that, you know what? I can still perform in a band. I can still be an actor. I can still be a writer. I can still produce. You know, okay, I'm sitting in a chair. And maybe in my lifetime, there will be this cure, and maybe I'll take it and maybe I won't. And
Yeah.
and now that I've been associating more with other individuals and realizing that some of us have disability seeing, some of us have disability hearing, whatever that disability is, you can turn it into an ability.
Yeah. I mean, the reality, right, is that we are all snowflakes. We are all unique individuals unto ourselves. And disability, everybody has one somewhere.
Right.
We might not even know about it, right? But a lot of people are emotionally disabled. Some people have no self awareness. Some people are prejudiced. To me, that's a disability, right?
It is. Absolutely.
That's one you can actually fix. The the rest sort of come with, like you said, um, there's a flip side of it where, in some ways, yes, I'm highly disabled, but it's made me more enabled in other areas, right? In the confidence to do certain things. Um, and so I find that's the remarkable part, is that with every disability there is some type of a benefit. I mean, I have several deaf friends and I say, "Oh, you're so lucky," and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, you can say the most beautiful thing across the room in the loudest of places to somebody, and like you can really have an intimate conversation in a place where I couldn't do that. Um, my sign language is terrible thanks to these. uh, these hands, the quadriplegic hands. But I try to see that there is a beauty in every single aspect of disability, primarily because I've met most people from almost every type of disability, and I've been fortunate to see really shining, lovely, amazing, wonderful individuals. Regardless, I think they were probably that way before. Some are born with disabilities that I know, and they're just, I've met remarkable people. So for
Absolutely.
me, any excuses kind of go out the window because, um, fortunately, I know someone in another situation who's doing way better than me. They've got it harder than me, and they're still kicking the world's butt. So,
Well, and again, a lot of that, I think, and I don't know your family, but I'm assuming that your family was very supportive even before you went through this.
ab-
Okay. Because you had to have felt that, hey, I've got this support. I can do anything I need to do. Whereas there are some individuals, sadly, that don't have that support. And when something changes in their life, and we all know things are changing constantly. I mean, we just went through a year of horrific changes. Um, but some of us have come out of it much better off than we were before. And I'm not talking necessarily having more money, okay? But
ab-
we're nicer, to each other. And wow, that to me is something that this world needs a lot more of.
yeah, I think that's what draws me to entertainment, especially acting, is you know, when you're making a movie, when you're making a TV show, when you're doing these things, clearly you're not saving the world. You're not performing surgery and saving lives. But what you are doing is through art, you're creating conversation, right? So if I could do a movie or a TV show about a father and son who have a really rough relationship, but they work it out. And if a father and son who in real life have that situation, they go see this movie or go see that show or that play, and they are able to start a conversation based off of that heals maybe years of trauma. Wow, what a mission accomplished.
Oh,
Or, for
absolutely.
instance, I was very lucky to be able to sing in the choir at the Academy Awards, the Oscars, this 2020 actually.
Right.
And the most important thing to me was that could people see the wheelchair? Could little kids out there in the audience of the world watching the Oscars look on the stage and see a wheelchair and go, "Oh my gosh, I can do that. I can do that. I'm allowed up there." And that to me is the real payment, right?
Absolutely. Um, so tell me then, for you being on stage, it wasn't really as much for you as it was to let others know that, hey, I don't have to be standing up here with everybody. I am standing up in my chair.
I mean, I would love to say yes to that. But the reality is that it's a selfish endeavor, right? I mean,
Right.
I'm doing this primarily for myself. It's
Okay.
being an artist is an affliction. It's not something. In some ways, it's not so much a choice. It's I have to get stuff out of me. I have to take this creative process and do it. And a stage, for me being on it, I guess, is as much for me as it is for the audience, right? Or for someone watching it. Um, the payback for me is trying to sort of be an inspiration for kids, primarily with disability. I mean,
Okay.
everybody, everybody, because everybody has an obstacle. But for the little kids who have not seen themselves represented on in the media, on screen, in any sort of way, shapes, or form, um, I mean, 20% of the population, 20+ percent of the population has a disability, but we rarely see it in our film and television. So hopefully that's changing. And hopefully by doing my little parts, I'm able to inspire those kids who may have thought there was an obstacle, that there's no obstacle, and they will eventually have those huge parts.
Absolutely. When what I'm seeing, and I don't have a, you know, high platform to see it all, but from what I am seeing is that producers and directors and film writers, when they're looking for people to play the parts, it used to be an able-bodied person who would play the part, and now they seem to be looking for the person who is already living this to play that part. And I've
Sure.
noticed that on a lot of TV programs recently. And to me, that makes me smile. It says, you know what? We don't have to live in a cookie cutter world. Uh, and that is what you're trying to show young kids. And, you know, let's all be open. We
Yeah.
need more kindness.
Yeah. I agree. And I will take, I mean, I'm a person who says, optimism is free. Have as much as you want. So, and share it because it doesn't cost a thing.
Right.
Um, a little bit of that is blindness. I believe in ignorance is bliss, and I don't keep a big world picture. I'm not a news person that gets consumed with news and politics, and maybe I'm lucky in that sense because I'm able to sort of go ignorance is bliss, and let me my little world and try to empower that world, the entertainment world, with authenticity and authentic portrayals of people with disabilities. I understand, hey, we need this actor to sell this project, right? But if people with disabilities are not given the opportunities or the equal opportunities, then we'll never have the chance to be
Right.
able to go, oh, that is the guy that can bring money to this. That Peter Dinklage, for instance, right? I mean, I think he's as a little person and as an actor has surpassed the idea that he's a little person
Right.
first, which is how most people are seen, right? And to me, the ultimate goal would be like Stevie Wonder. When you think of Stevie Wonder, what comes first? It's not that he's blind or that he's black, or it's his incredible talent.
Right.
And if you can
Exactly.
lead with the talent and the doors hopefully are open and there's a ramp, then that's all we're really asking for. Um, the biggest fight with disability in the entertainment world is not, hey, I need the disabled part. It's, hey, I can do any part that, that as long as it's not Prefontaine, as long as I'm not running, through a field, I can pretty much play any part. So let's just
Absolutely.
open up all those to all types of people and be inclusive. And with roles that are disabled, let's try and be authentic because you sure would do that for like a race, like a part that involves race or a part that involves like a really specific um, story or details. You can really only get from someone that's lived it.
Right.
And so that's kind of the fight, is to just find some equality of opportunity.
So this past year's been difficult for most performers. Not, there's nothing we can say other than it's been tough. What do you have coming up now that the pandemic is slowly um, coming to an end that we hope?
Yeah, I mean, it was a quiet year. There's no doubt about it. I decided I'll write a short film, and we filmed it fortunately just before the pandemic, and we were able to get it all done and put it into festivals and that was an amazing process for me because as I'm very I don't have the confidence as a writer that I do as an actor or a performer. Interesting
Okay.
enough. And I wrote something, and I another friend of mine, Eileen Grupa, who is you should interview her next because she is really a spearhead for this disability community. She's done so many things. She's an incredible actress who happens to have a disability. She got another friend of hers, Austin Basis, who's an incredible actor and has just done tons of stuff. And the three of us helped produce this thing, and we got our other friends involved. My friend Alex, who's a director, and my friend Adam, who has tons of equipment and put in work, and just so many other people kind of went into making this small project work. And that was an amazing experience. So I'm able to produce my own thing and see what that experience is like while waiting for the rest of the world to catch up. Fortunately, it is catching up a little bit. Auditions are starting to happen. I just did a TV show, and I'm in the middle of writing with a director a feature film that I would star in and producing that and the pre-production of that. And I'm meeting with some other folks about doing a full feature overseas later on this week.
How
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, and then
Absolutely.
right after this, I got to throw an audition on tape, and you just do the thing, right? As you cast your line into the water and see if you get a nibble.
Absolutely. And it's like that no matter what it is you want to do in life. Um, you can sit back and dream about what it is you want to do, but unless you keep trying and put yourself out there, um, it's probably not going to happen because until you're noticed and somebody says, aha, that's the guy I want, or that's the gal I want.
Right?
Um, you're going to be dancing alone in your bedroom or singing alone in the shower, and nobody's going to hear you. And uh, I know when I decided after years of thinking about doing broadcasting and wanting to do broadcasting, when all of a sudden it was like, you can do podcasting. And it was like, okay, this is a good way for me not to get turned down.
Yeah.
um, but I've been able to reach out and meet so many people that it's the best part of my day because I learn from each and every one of you. And um, I couldn't be happier in my life. I
Well,
am
that's
looking
amazing
for,
because
pardon?
your manifest destiny, right, empowers other people's manifest destiny. Because what you're doing is sharing, right? You're saying, hey, here is this person who I find is passionate and talented, and I want to share their passion and talent with other people who will
Absolutely.
appreciate it. And without that, we're all stuck treading water.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see this movie that you guys have put together.
It's
It's
called Dead End Drive,
okay. And
and
is it available?
it's available on like Film Freeway, but right
Okay.
now because it's in festivals, it's available to watch in the different festivals.
Okay.
And after the festival run, we'll probably release it and allow people to watch the whole thing without having to be part of a festival. Yeah.
Well, if you can be part of the festival and see it, that's absolutely wonderful. And I want to have you back after some of these things pan out that you're working on right now, so we
Absolutely.
can keep encouraging each other that, you know what, if you want it, it's there. Uh, I have to admit that when I met David through another podcast, um, I fell in love with him.
How
Okay. How could you not? You're right. And I reached out and I said, I know you're interviewing the same people that I want to interview, but let's let's redevelop their scope because you're going to interview them one way, I'm going to do it another way. And I want to do the same thing that you're doing. I want to give others a chance because by giving you a chance, you're giving me a chance.
Yeah,
And, and that's what this world is all about. It's,
well, and what you're doing is great because guess what? One of the biggest issues is opportunity, exposure, experience, sort of combined, and for performers with disabilities, especially, the more we can be interviewed, the more opportunities we have to share our stories, the more people can be affected, and the sharper our skills become. Because guess what? You might be preparing me for the interview on the Tonight Show someday, and without you having been a stepping stone and allowing me to share my story and become comfortable with being interviewed, then you wouldn't have the skills to parlay it later on.
absolutely.
So everybody is a training ground, and thank you for being my teacher and my trainer
Oh,
today.
anytime. Just stay in touch with us. And again, to David Zimmerman, thank you so much. Again, the first thing he said to me was, I have a number of people that you can interview, but you must interview Tobias Forrest because you will fall in love. And I have. So keep up the great work, and just enjoy the road ahead.
I will. This has been a love fest. We love you, David Zimmerman, and thanks to all of your listeners as well. So
Thank
I
you very
appreciate
much.
being a part of it.
Have a great day. Bye bye
You
now.